Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating finding from our sources to solve the ultimate kitchen mystery. Have you ever followed a recipe to the letter only to end up with a ruined, soupy gravy or incredibly dry, crumbly cornbread? Well, it turns out the culprit might just be a simple ingredient mix-up sitting right there in your pantry.
So you might be thinking cornstarch and corn flour are basically the same thing, right? Think again. It's actually incredibly common to assume they're interchangeable because, well, they both come from corn. But as we're going to see, one is the absolute secret to making your gravy silky smooth, while the other is the structural foundation for your favorite baked treats. Let's clear this confusion up once and for all.
Okay, here's our roadmap to sort this out. We'll start with the great corn confusion. Meet cornstarch, meet corn flour, put them head to head, uncover a global naming mix-up, and wrap it all up with some essential kitchen rules.
All right, Section 1, the great corn confusion, a tale of two completely different ingredients.
Let's jump into Section 2, Meet Cornstarch, the silky thickener.
Diving into the source material, cornstarch has a very specific profile. It's a bright white powder with an incredibly fine texture. But the absolute most important characteristic here is that it's completely flavorless. Because it's flavorless and also gluten-free, cornstarch is like the ultimate hidden thickener. It does its job quietly behind the scenes without altering the taste of your carefully seasoned dish.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the simple mathematical power behind cornstarch. That number 1, it represents a golden ratio in the kitchen. Just 1 single tablespoon of cornstarch has the power to thicken about 1 full cup of liquid. It's super highly concentrated, which is exactly why a little box of this stuff lasts literally forever in your pantry.
Because of all that thickening power, its best uses are all about controlling liquids. It's your absolute go-to for thickening gravies and soups, creating those beautifully glossy sauces you see in fancy restaurants, and binding pie fillings together so they don't leak everywhere. You'll also see it constantly in stir-fry sauces. And surprisingly, it acts as the ultimate crispy fried chicken coating. We're going to come back to that fantastic trick in just a bit.
Moving on to Section 3. Meet corn flour, the baking staple. Our sources highlight a brilliant anatomical difference right at the source. Cornstarch is made by removing the bran and the germ, keeping only the starchy center, the endosperm, of the corn kernel. But corn flour, well, corn flour is made by grinding dried corn into a fine powder, utilizing the whole corn kernel, or at least nearly all of it. This difference in processing changes absolutely everything about how these two behave.
Because corn flour uses that whole kernel, its physical traits are way different from cornstarch. Instead of bright white, it's usually a pale yellow or yellowish white. Instead of being flavorless, it brings a light, really pleasant corn taste to your dishes. And because it contains much more of the original corn, it naturally retains more fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So it's actually a more filling ingredient overall.
When it comes to its best uses, there is a massive shift from liquids to structures. Corn flour is your building block. You want corn flour when you're making cornbread and muffins or traditional tortillas, depending on your region. It's fantastic in pancakes, as a hearty breading, and as a base in various baking mixes. Essentially, it provides structure and flavor rather than just absorbing liquid.
Section 4. Head-to-head. The big question. Can they replace each other? So, can you actually swap them? The answer is a huge, resounding no. Let's break this down impartially. Looking at the health profile, neither is universally better. Cornstarch is mostly carbs with very little protein or fiber. Corn flour just has more fiber, vitamins, and minerals because of that whole kernel. But here's the kicker. If you try to use corn flour instead of cornstarch, it will absolutely not thicken your sauce properly. You'll literally end up with flavored water. And if you use cornstarch instead of corn flour in a baking recipe, oh boy, it'll make your baked goods terribly dry with a completely wrong texture. Bottom line, they are not interchangeable.
Okay, Section 5, the global naming mix-up, why we are all so confused.
It turns out, the real root of this kitchen disaster comes down to international borders. The terminology actually changes depending on where you are in the world. In the United States, cornstarch is the white thickener, and corn flour is the finely ground whole corn used for baking. But in the United Kingdom, what Americans call cornstarch is actually packaged and sold as corn flour, all one word. This means if you're an American cooking from a British blog or a Brit using an American recipe and you just read the ingredient list without knowing this, you are walking straight into a culinary trap.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this.
Always check the package before using a recipe. Many other countries follow one of these two naming systems, so you have to make sure the physical powder in the bag matches what the recipe is trying to accomplish. Are you looking at a bright white flavorless thickener or a yellowish corn-flavored baking powder? Check before you pour.
All right, final section. Section 6, essential kitchen rules and some handy tips to remember.
Here is a brilliant little mnemonic device was found in the sources to help you keep this straight forever. Cornstarch equals thickens. Corn flour equals bakes. Say it with me in your head. Starch for the sauce, flour for the oven. Seriously, if you remember absolutely nothing else from this explainer, remember this simple rule. And just to wrap up, here are 2 fantastic practical kitchen tips from our source material that put our new rules to work. First, remember that fried chicken trick? If you want amazingly crispy fried chicken, mix a little cornstarch with your standard flour coating. Because cornstarch absorbs moisture so well, it creates a drastically lighter, crunchier crust. It's a real game changer. Second, applying our baking rule. If you're making cornbread or corn muffins, you must use corn flour or the specific cornmeal your recipe calls for. Absolutely, under no circumstances, use cornstarch, unless of course you want a dry, crumbling mess.
While we've officially solved the mystery, you now know exactly how these 2 ingredients are made, what they do, and how to dodge those tricky international naming conventions. But it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Before you bake your next batch of muffins, which one will you reach for? And more importantly, what other hidden imposters are currently sitting in your pantry just waiting to ruin your next dinner party? Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next explainer.